We welcome all people in this church, and we welcome your whole person. Today, immediately following the service, please join us, guests, friends, and members, for a super spectacular coffee hour with soups, breads, and desserts to sample, all downstairs in the Robeson Room. Next month, February, we'll be celebrating Black History, and TUC celebrates particularly on February 15th. This year, we'll have a special celebration of life led by Mama Kimba and a forum panel discussion with the Austin Scholarship member founders. The Mid-American Regional Assembly will be held April 17th through 19th in Naperville, Illinois, just outside of Chicago this year. It's time to register right now for this weekend-long gathering of Unitarian Universalists from all over the Midwest. Additional information is located on the information table in the concourse. So, if you came to one of our TUC social action events and you borrowed a yellow Third Unitarian Church t-shirt, please return return it. You can bring it anytime back to the office, including on Sundays. We'd like to have them so that we can wear them to future social action events. Also, please remember to return your guest at your table envelopes and your auction donation forms to the office today. There's no forum scheduled for next Sunday, but next Sunday, which is February 1st, we will begin our journey together as a congregation to find a new settled minister for TUC. What can other journeys tell us about this one, and from where do we receive help? Sacagawea might be with you and you haven't even met her yet. Our guest speaker will be the Reverend Emmy Lou Belcher, representing the Ministerial Transitions Department of the Unitarian Universalist Association, and she will convene our celebration of life. Once again, welcome to Third Unitarian Church.
Please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing the opening hymn, number 188. Come, come, whoever you are.
Come, whoever you
which is printed in your order of service.
Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Good morning.
So nice to see so many of you here. So this month, remember, for those of you who don't know me, I should probably say I'm Kate, and I am the Director of Religious Education here. It's lovely to see new faces. You might need to be pretty close to see the pictures on this, but there are pictures today. So we have been talking about integrity this month, right? So does anybody remember what that means? No. Remember, it's acting the way you believe, like if everybody in your school wears a certain kind of jeans or something, but you don't really like them, that you would wear the jeans you really like anyway. Kind of like that. So I have a story today about a little girl who had a really hard time figuring out how to be who she was and try to fit in with her new class. She was new. We'll see how this works. All right, can you see? You might want to move up if you can't see the pictures because they're kind of small. Okay, Monday was Ruby's first day in Miss Hart's class. Class, this is Ruby. You can see right there, she's a little shy. Ruby, you may use the empty desk behind Angela. Angela is the girl with the pretty red bow in her hair. Ruby smiled at Angela's bow and tiptoed to her seat. I hope everyone had a pleasant weekend, said Miss Hart. Does anyone have something to share? I was the flower girl at my sister's wedding, said Angela. Wow, that's exciting, said Miss Hart. Well, Ruby raised her hand and said, I was the flower girl at my sister's wedding too. Well, what a coincidence, said Miss Hart. Angela turned and smiled at Ruby, and Ruby smiled at the top of Angela's head. Class, please take your reading books out, said Miss Hart. At lunchtime, Ruby hopped all the way home on one foot. When Ruby came back to school, she was wearing a red bow in her hair. She slid into her seat behind Angela. I like your bow, whispered Angela. I like yours too, said Ruby. Class, please take out your math book, said Miss Hart. On Tuesday morning, Angela wore a sweater with daisies on it. At lunchtime, Ruby hopped home sideways. When she came back to school after lunch, she was wearing a sweater with daisies on it. They were kind of pinned on, you see. She made her own. I like your sweater, whispered Angela. I like yours too, whispered Ruby. On Wednesday, Angela wore a hand-painted t-shirt with matching sneakers. After lunch, Ruby hopped back to school wearing a hand-painted t-shirt with matching sneakers. Why are you sitting like that? See how she was sitting all wonky? Wet paint, said Ruby. On Thursday morning, during sharing time, Angela modeled the flower girl dress she wore at her sister's wedding. Ruby modeled her flower girl dress too, right after lunch. Angela didn't whisper anything. By coincidence, on Friday morning, both girls were wearing red and lavender striped dresses. At lunchtime, Angela Angela raced home. And when she came back to school, she was wearing black. On Friday afternoon, Miss Hart asked everyone to write a short poem. Who would like to read first? Asked Miss Hart. Angela raised her hand. She stood by her desk and said, I had a cat I could not see because it stayed in back of me. It was a very loyal pet. It's sad we never really met. That was very good, said Miss Hart. Now who's next? Miss Hart looked around the room. Ruby? Ruby stood and she said slowly, I had a nice pet who I never met because it always stayed behind me. And I'm sure it was a cat too. Ruby smiled at the back of Angela's head. Someone whispered. Ruby sat down. What a coincidence, murmured Miss Hart. And you see her, she's like this. Angela scribbled something on a piece of paper and she passed it to Ruby. It said, you copied me. I'm telling Miss Hart. P.S. I hate your hair that way. See, that made Ruby really sad. Ruby buried her chin in the collar of her blouse. A big tear rolled down her nose and plopped onto the note. When the bell rang, Miss Hart sent everyone home, except Ruby. Miss Hart closed the door of the schoolroom and sat on the edge of Ruby's desk. Ruby, dear, she said gently, you don't need to copy everything Angela does. You can be anything you want to be, but be Ruby first. I like Ruby. Miss Hart smiled at Ruby, and Ruby smiled at Miss Hart's beautiful polished fingernails. Have a nice weekend, said Miss Hart. Have a nice weekend, said Ruby. On Monday morning, Miss Hart said, I hope everyone had a pleasant weekend. I did. I went to the opera. Miss Hart looked around the room. Does anyone have anything else to share? You ready for it? Ruby waved her hand. Glued to every finger was a pink plastic fingernail. I went to the opera too, said Ruby. She did not, whispered Angela. Miss Hart folded her hands and looked very serious. Ruby, dear, asked Miss Hart, did you do anything else this weekend? Ruby peeled off a fingernail. Well, I hopped, she said. The class giggled. Ruby's ears turned red. But I did! I hopped around the picnic table 10 times. Ruby looked around the room. Watch! Ruby sprang up from her desk and she hopped forward and she hopped backward. She hopped sideways with both eyes shut. The class cheered and clapped their hands to the beat of Ruby's feet. Ruby was the best hopper they had ever seen. Miss Hart turned on the tape player and said, follow the leader, do the Ruby hop. So Ruby led the class around the room while everyone copied her. And at noon, Ruby and Angela hopped home for lunch together. It took her a while, but Ruby finally figured out how to be herself and be part of her classroom community, right? Integrity, there you go. All right, so you may either return to your seats or go up into the RE space to hang out.
So I'd like to invite you all now to find yourself here, sitting in your pews. Find your feet pressed evenly into the floor. Maybe close your eyes. Find your sit bones resting evenly on the pew. Your spine stacking one vertebrae on top of the next. And begin to find your breath. Feel it coming in and out of your nostrils. Feel it filling your belly. Come into being here and now. Spirit of life and love, Holy One of our being and our becoming, that which is sacred within, among, and beyond us. We are truly wanderers. Even if our bodies stay put, our minds and our spirits wander all the time. Sometimes we lose our way and we need a little help getting back home to our center. We have made commitments to ourselves and each other, to our deepest integrity, and we know that sometimes we will wander away from those commitments. Sometimes circumstances will push us away from our center, fling us out into the dark night of the soul. If we are out there now, may we find the comfort of presence, and may we find our way back home. If we are home, waiting with the light on for a loved one, may we have the patience to sit still and just wait. They will come in their own time, in their own way, and we can offer them our presence and a prayer for their return. Being lost is hard. The dark night of the soul is hard. May we all return safe and be born again into a new life with renewed commitment to love, centered in integrity, and to nourish and sustain life in this world. May it be so, and amen.
Reconciliation. It's a simple word, but yet it can be quite powerful. Its simplicity means simply being friends. Friends that had an argument, but then they get back together. It could be brothers and sisters, husbands and wives, or even nations. We've all experienced it. To have the reconciliation, I think we need two things. First of all, we need one of the two parties, or many parties, want it. And second, at least one, if not all, need to approach the situation with humility. Once I worked for a large, powerful company in Sioux City, Iowa. I will just say we were arrogant. When someone dealt with us, we answered every objection. Every objection we had an answer for. If not, we minimized it and moved on. We had a woman that was one of my customers that had been angry at the company for years and years and years. Not just me, but everybody else, even the people she talked to on the phone. Then to settle the thing, we had a man that was in charge of 5 states make an appointment to go see her. He went there. He waited for 2.5 hours before the receptionist told him, she is not seeing you today. So he left. The next day it became my job to go in and talk to her. So I went in and I was prepared for what she was going to throw at me. But I decided I was going to be open and listen to what she had to say. I thought of myself as being chicken wire, the little thin wires without much strength. She screamed, she shouted, and she cursed at me for 45 minutes. The only thing I did was recognize the fact that she was talking to me. I made no response at all. I tried to answer none of her objections. But after that 45 minutes, I must tell you, she became one of the most loyal and beautiful customers we ever had. Why? Because I simply took the time to listen to her. Many times, we don't listen to our spouses, we don't listen to our bosses, we don't listen to brothers and sisters. But sometimes it's a matter of just being quiet. I had an occasion where I had not talked to my brother for years. I was involved in real estate and he was involved in real estate. I decided it was time to reconcile with my brother. So I called him up and asked him a question that I knew the answer to. But because I played the dummy to my little brother, we had a successful relationship from that day forward. I hope that we can move forward with this as individuals and as a country. It's difficult because at times we're trained to win-lose, win-lose, win-lose. But we can only reconcile with people, be friends with people, if we consider them our equal.
Every week we have an opportunity to express our care for this place through the sharing of our resources. Resources are a tangible representation of our energy in the world, and when we share them with Third Unitarian Church, with this church, with each other, and this community, what we're saying is we want to put our energy here. This place matters to us. We care about it. The offering will now be received. Will the ushers please come forward? Will you all please rise in either body or in spirit and join us in the responsive reading, which is number 470 in your gray hymnals. Number 470. I'll read the regular typeface and you'll respond with the words in italics. unfailing renewal of life.
Rising from the earth and reaching for the sun, all living creatures shall fulfill themselves.
We affirm the steady growth of human companionship.
Rising from ancient cradles and reaching for the stars, people the world over shall seek the ways of understanding.
We affirm a continuing hope.
That out of every tragedy, the spirits of individuals shall rise to build a better world.
So if you'll stay standing in either body or in spirit, we're going to sing the sermon hymn, which is the insert in your order of service.